This is Find Your Dream Job, the podcast that helps you get hired, have the career you want, and make a difference in life. I'm your host, Mac Pritchard. I'm also the founder of Mac's List. It's a job board in the Pacific Northwest that helps you find a fulfilling career. Every Wednesday, I talk to a different expert about the tools you need to get the work you want. Find Your Dream Job is brought to you by Top Resume. Top Resume has helped more than 400,000 professionals land more interviews and get hired faster. Get a free review of your resume today. Go to maxlist.org/topresume. Research shows that women are less likely than men to negotiate salary offers. Why does this happen, and what can women do differently? Tejal Wagadia is here to talk about why women don't negotiate salary and how to do it well. She's a LinkedIn top voice and an award-winning talent leader. Tejal helps people learn what recruiters want through her blog, LinkedIn articles, and social media posts. She joins us from Phoenix, Arizona. Well, let's get started, Tejal. What's the difference between how women and men approach salary negotiations?
Yeah, women don't negotiate salaries mainly because we don't know that it's an option. When I first started my career, and I didn't that back then I did not know that negotiating your salary was an option. I thought that whatever the employer was going to pay you is what they are going to pay you. And the more I spoke to other female colleagues and supervisors and people above me, females tended to have the same response as me. It's like, we didn't know that salary negotiation was an option. We didn't know that we could even do that, that it was even a thing that we could talk about. And the more I talked to the men, my male colleagues, the more they told me, oh, it's like, yeah, absolutely. What's the worst thing that can happen? They're going to say no. Okay, that's great. So I feel that that's based on anecdotal evidence that I have, that has been the biggest difference of why women don't negotiate salary as often.
Well, talk to us more, Tejal, about what accounts for this difference between men and women when it comes to negotiating salary.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fear of repercussions, right? Because we feel uncomfortable talking about money. As we have grown up, we've been told, at least like in my family, we were always told, you don't talk about money with other people. We don't disclose what we are making. We are not trying to showcase our financial situation, either by making it seem like we were bragging or making it seem like we didn't have enough money. So we have a mindset that we can't talk about it, and that if we talk about it, we will face repercussions. And I feel that has translated into our job search and our careers as well, that we don't want to ask for that higher pay or higher base or that next promotion, because we feel that if we try to negotiate our salary during job search, that they will take that offer away. That's always a fear. Or if we ask for promotion or ask for a higher pay during the promotion cycle, that our promotion or our merit increase, whatever increase that is going to be taken away. And then that's an inherent fear that we have. The other thing is that we also don't know how to do it. And women, have a tendency, we've all heard that statistics, right? That 100 women only apply to 100% of the jobs that they qualify 100% of the time. It's the same thing with negotiating salary. Because we don't know how to do it, we don't do it, or we don't practice that skill that we don't have.
Tejal, you're a recruiter. You talk to candidates all the time, and you're part of teams that make offers to candidates, so you're on the employer side of the table. Do you, on the employer side, expect candidates to negotiate when you make an offer of salary?
Absolutely. It is hardwired in every recruiter's brain to be ready for negotiation. We always have a number that we are to offer, and then and then we have typically recruiters have some level of wiggle room, but we almost always expect to negotiate at a certain point to a certain degree. It's honestly surprising when candidates don't negotiate their salary.
So the candidate who is worried that they might upset you or jeopardize the offer, and I respect those feelings, it's simply not going to happen, is it, Tejal?
No, absolutely not. I would say 90% of the time, the offer, one of three things is going to happen if you negotiate properly and respectfully. They're going to come back and meet you what you're requesting, the new total compensation salary ask that you're requesting. They might not. Number two is that they might not be able to meet you 100%, but they can come close, or they might be able to come somewhere in the middle. So that's option number two. And the option number three is that they've already come in at the highest level they can come in, and they cannot go any further. And the offer on the table is the offer on the table. And any of those situations are totally acceptable. At least then, as a job seeker, you know what your option is.
Some listeners might wonder why negotiation is necessary at all.
I would say that employers are making. I don't want to speak for every employer. I don't want to speak for every recruiter. But as a recruiter, I always try to make my best offer that I can make. And that is based on your skill level, that is based on the market, where the market is for your skill level. And that is based on where you fit in within the band, right? If you don't have 100% at the skills and you're not at the top 10 percentile, you might not get the highest amount. So all of that is based on some of their own assumptions of your skill, of your talent, as well as the market. So they think they are making the best offer, but your expectation is something different, and that's where the disconnect lies.
I want to talk more about how to negotiate, but one last point about the importance of negotiation of salary. If you don't negotiate that first offer, Tejal, how does that affect both future salary increases and your lifetime earnings over the course of your career?
Yeah, that's a great point, Mac. It significantly impacts your future salary and what you can make in other employers. Because if you don't negotiate, you've not built that skill set, and you are not ready to negotiate the next time. But also, if you take the lower pay, if your skills are worth 120,000, hypothetical number, if your skills are worth 120,000, you're requesting 80,000. The company comes in at 100,000 because that's where your skills are. They feel that's where your skills are. And if you don't negotiate, every increase that you get typically is 3 to 5% for merit increase, performance increase. Every job that you change is 10 to 20%. So over the course of your career, you're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars by not negotiating, at least to see what is negotiable and what is not negotiable, where the room lies.
Well, let's talk about how to negotiate. When is the best time in the application process to bring up salary and negotiate? What's your recommendation?
My recommendation is going to be similar to most recruiters' recommendation, which is going to be first conversation that you have with us. Well, I have that conversation. Even if the candidate does not bring that up, I will talk to the candidate and say, hey, do you have a salary range in mind? Have you thought about this? And, most of the time, because I'm mostly speaking to candidates that I'm reaching out to, they're like, "Oh, I haven't thought about it. If relocation is a thing, then they don't really know what the cost of labor is in that new city." So I always say, "Hey, go to." I always give them resources. I'm like, "Go to this site, go to this site, and look up what your skill sets are worth, because I want you to have that number for yourself." And they will ask me what my budget is, and if I do have the budget in the area that they are, I'll share that with them. If I don't have it, I'll say, hey, I don't have that number right now, but let's talk about it again in our next conversation. So I always bring that up. I start that conversation very early in the process, because if that number does not make sense, if we don't start having that conversation, it's going to be hard. You're going to go through like 5, 10 hours of conversation with an organization only to find out that they can't meet your number that you had in mind.
Pay transparency is an important issue. It's coming up a lot in popular culture now. There are even states that require employers to publish salary ranges. What are your thoughts in terms of negotiation, Tejo, about the benefits both to employers and applicants of employers publicly posting salary ranges for a position?
I think it's very much a good step forward for employers to post their salaries and like the total comp, whatever the salary range might be, right? I think it's a good first step. However, I don't think it's going to solve the issue of the pay inequity, but I feel like that's a different conversation, Mac. I do feel that it's a good step forward, and that having the pay conversation early enough creates for that pay transparency. And that band that the employer is posting, you have to know that it's just a band, that your skill set might fit in anywhere between the lower end to the higher end of that band.
Terrific. Well, we're going to take a break, Tejo. And when we come back, we'll continue our conversation about salary negotiation. Stay with us. Do you keep putting off updating your resume? Go to maxlist.org/top resume. A professional writer at Top Resume will look at your resume for free. Go to maxlist.org/top resume. You'll get specific ideas to fix your resume today, or you can hire Top Resume to do it for you. Go to maxlist.org/top resume. Now, let's get back to the show. We're back in the Max List studio. I'm talking with Tejal Wagadia. She's a LinkedIn top voice and an award-winning talent leader. Tejal helps people learn what recruiters want through her blog, LinkedIn posts, and other social media. She joins us from Phoenix, Arizona. Now, Tejal, before the break, we were talking about why women don't negotiate salary and beginning to talk about how they can do it well. And we talked about the when to bring up salary in the course of an interview. Um, let's talk about other steps that women can take to negotiate salary well. I know one suggestion you have is to know what the market pays. Why is this important, Tejal?
Yeah. So I am a big proponent of telling people, like, it doesn't matter what the employer's budget is, because if the employer's budget is not what the market is paying, you're getting underpaid. Right. And we know that small organizations can't always pay at the same level as large organizations. So asking about the budget, while is important, I also think should not be the only tool in your toolbox. And understanding what the market pays helps you know what your skills are worth, and you can bring that to the table when the negotiation conversation comes around. I recommend people, if you're interviewing at a larger organization, go to levels.fyi, and that website typically has a very accurate representation of the compensation. And for non large organizations, salary.com. I almost always recommend that to everyone. I'm like, go on salary.com, find out what you're looking for. Now, both of these have caveats since COVID, because in the last 12 months, I have seen a salary explosion like no other in my career. And the numbers that you will find on here are typically 10 to 20% lower than what companies are offering these days. So, knowing what the market pays and understanding what your skills are worth is definitely going to be helpful when you go into that negotiation. Because if you don't know that number or that range, whatever that employer is going to give you, it's either going to seem like a lot of money or not enough money.
You mentioned two great online resources for researching salary, Tejal. But you also mentioned that data may be out of date because of the dramatic recent increase in wages, partly caused by inflation. Are there other resources that you would recommend a job seeker look at, particularly resources that are going to be persuasive to employers when it comes time to negotiate?
Yeah, I think the two resources that I did mention are definitely going to be helpful when they do go through that negotiation space. The other thing I always recommend people do is make friends with your recruiters. We are great resources. I've had friends that come up to me and say, "Hey, do you know what this XYZ skill set is going for these days?" And I'm able to give them accurate numbers based on my experience as a recruiter and seeing what other employers are paying them. So I would say if you are trying to be persuasive, both salary.com and levels.fyi are going to be good indicators to take to the table. But even talking to recruiters, just to clarify and verify that the numbers are good, are going to be a good resource.
You mentioned in the first segment that you can ask recruiters about the budget for a position, and I think that might surprise some listeners. They might either assume that employers want to keep that information guarded or not share it at all. Should What would you say to listeners who are worried that they'll upset a recruiter or an employer by asking about the budget for a position?
Yeah, I think that those are there's a nuance there, right? So if as a job seeker you're worried about asking that question, just remember to frame it properly. To say, hey, do you have a budget for this position? What does that look like? Could you please share that? Along with, if they say they don't know, they can't disclose the budget, or it's based on the skill set or whatever it may be. Feel free to share your salary expectation with them, because they might have a policy that they can't share the budget. The other thing is, I always say that if a recruiter gets upset at you for asking their budget, it's probably not a good environment to be in. People show you who they are. Believe them. If a recruiter gets upset at you asking for about the company's budget, that's a very good indicator of what that company's culture is like. I never get upset when candidates ask me for a budget. I'm like, hey, here's what we, here's what we're looking at. It's not an upsetting question to be asked. It's about transparency, and people want to make sure that they're getting paid well. So, yeah.
There's another idea out there that if you are the first person to put a number out in a negotiation, that you'll lose. So you should wait for the other party to put the figure out first. What do you think about that, Tejal?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's a great point, Mac. I love research. I don't do anything without anecdotal or like enough anecdotal evidence or even like research data. So Adam Grant, who is a world-renowned IO psychologist, industrial organizational psychologist, did a research study about like 5 maybe 7 years ago, that tackled this very question: who wins in a negotiation and who gives the number first? And they found out that it's not always that whoever gives the number first loses. They found that whoever gives the number first actually has the power to drive the conversation. If you ask me how I'm doing, you have the power to take the conversation wherever you want, because I have to respond to you, and then you get to respond to me and move the conversation forward. Salary negotiations are the exact same way. I don't know who came up with the idea that whoever gives the number first loses, but it is not, data suggests that it is not accurate. Whoever gives the number first actually ends up winning because they get to drive the conversation.
Finally, another step you recommend to your clients is to know your non negotiables in a salary negotiation. Give us some examples of common non negotiables, and also talk, Tejal, about salary when it comes to non negotiation. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I have certain non-negotiables when I'm looking at jobs. Base salary is important to me, but what is even more important is health insurance and PTO. If a company only has 10 days of PTO but is paying 10K higher than my other offer, and the other company has unlimited PTO without any caveat or needing to request it off, I will go with the company that has unlimited PTO because I am a person that likes to travel. I like to do all of those things. So those are my non-negotiables. Some people, their health insurance is very important to them, and the cost of health insurance is very important to them. The base salary is important because it's what we take home every paycheck. So those are your non-negotiables. Know what your non-negotiable is. Know what number is going to make you say no, this company is not the right fit, or if this company comes in at this number, that is going to be the you know it will end all of the other opportunities for me. That's what I mean when I say non-negotiables. And also, there are certain things that are not negotiable from the employer perspective. So health insurance premiums are, your medical premiums are not going to be negotiable with most employers because that is set by a contractor with the insurance company and your employer. PTO is not always negotiable in all companies. Some companies do negotiate, but most companies don't negotiate. Whether you can work from home or whether you have to come into the office, that sometimes is negotiable. So asking the recruiter what in your offer or what about your compensation package is negotiable versus not is going to give you a great understanding of what the company's compensation philosophy is.
Well, it's been a terrific conversation, Tejal. Now tell us what's next for you.
Oh, yeah. I have been working on a site called Caffeinated Career. I would like to feel that it's the next evolution of my brand. And I have started a LinkedIn newsletter called Caffeinated Careers, and I'm taking that to next levels with starting a blog as well, where all of my content is going to be transferred. And I'm just hoping that it will help more job seekers because at the end of the day, I don't do this for money. I don't do this for awards or anything like that. I do it because once every couple of weeks I get a message that said that my advice helped, and that's all I need in my life.
Oh, terrific. Well, I know listeners can learn more about you and your work by connecting with you rather on LinkedIn. And when they do reach out to you, I hope they'll mention they heard you on Find Your Dream Job. Now, Tejal, given all the useful advice you've shared today, what's the one thing you want a listener to remember about why women don't negotiate salary and how to do it well?
That the worst thing the other team or the party can do is say no. So whether it's how to negotiate, whether to negotiate, asking is better than assuming. And if you ask, the worst thing they can do is say no. So women, if you're out there, if you're listening to this, ask if the compensation is negotiable. Ask whether the salary is negotiable, because the worst thing they can do is say no.
Make sure you never miss an episode of Find Your Dream Job. Subscribe to our free podcast newsletter. You'll get information about our guests and transcripts of every show. Go to maxlist.org/newsletters. Again, that's maxlist.org/newsletters. Next week, our guest will be Priscilla Wincher-Bolcha. She's a human capital management consultant and Latinx career coach. Patricia is passionate about helping BIPOC professionals change careers with confidence and ease. You walk into an interview room. What's the best way to persuade a hiring manager to pick you for the position? Join us next week when Priscilla Winninger-Bolcha and I talk about how to convince an employer that you're the right person for the job. Until next time, thanks for letting us help you find your dream job. This show is produced by Max List. Susan Thornton Huff schedules our guests and writes our newsletter. Lisa Kislenberry Anderson manages our social media. Our sound engineer is Matt Fiorillo. Ryan Morrison at Podfly Productions edits the show. Dawn Mole creates our transcripts, and our music is by Freddie Trujillo. This is Mac Pritchard. See you next week.